Imagine that your life is a perfect reflection of your deepest thoughts, a mirror that returns exactly what you project. Every emotion, every desire, every idea you hold within finds its echo in the world around you. This is the mystery of the mirror effect, a principle revealed by Joseph Murphy, which transforms the way you perceive and create your reality. In this text, you will discover that abundance is not merely the accumulation of wealth, but a state of being, a vibration that flows from within into every aspect of your life. You will learn to align your mind, your emotions, and your spirit so that the world returns exactly what you deserve: prosperity, well-being, peace, and fulfillment. Prepare to embark on a profound journey where every thought becomes a tool, every feeling a magnet, and every moment an opportunity to reflect the abundance that resides within you. For when you understand the mirror effect, you do not just attract wealth. You become wealth itself. By their fruits you shall know them. Gospel of Matthew. As within, so without, as above, so below. The Kybalion principle of correspondence. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With them we build the world. Dhammapada. This is not a self-help book. It does not seek to comfort you, temporarily motivate you, or hand you encouraging phrases that fade away the next day. Here you will not find stories of personal triumph to admire, nor generic recipes to feel better. This book is a structure, a precise tool, a map to dismantle the root of everything you experience, without excuses or evasions. Because what you are living right now, whether light or shadow, is not the product of chance, nor of other people's decisions, nor of a destiny written in tongues you cannot understand. What you are living is your reflection. The law of reflection is absolute, not symbolic. It is not a metaphor to explain karma. It is a law of psychic functioning. It states that everything you perceive, attract, and experience in your external reality is an exact reproduction of what you have already signed as true in your inner reality. And that contract is not signed by your conscious mind, the one that thinks, doubts, decides, and analyzes, but by your subconscious programming, that invisible deposit that holds all the emotional conclusions you absorbed without questioning. Surface consciousness can say, "I deserve love," but if the subconscious still vibrates in "love hurts," that will be the reflection, because you do not live what you consciously believe. You live what you subconsciously feel as inevitable, and that manifests over and over with mathematical precision until it is rewritten. This book is not based on hope, but on evidence. It does not promote magic, blind faith, or unstructured energetic theories. It will give you a rational, repeatable method based on inner observation, disciplined practice, and verifiable principles. But for it to work, you first need to release certain mental baggage: victimhood that blames the other, the belief that your emotions come from outside, and the hope that something magical will rescue you without real transformation. Here we work with law, not desire, with cause, not guilt, with vibration, not mere willpower. If you are willing to look at your reflection without justifications, to deactivate the recordings that sustain it, and to write a new reality from the ground up, then this book will not only serve you, it will transform you. Because the mirror never lies, it only reflects what you have already believed on some level. And today, at last, you can rewrite it. The Art of Being Abundance, based on the teachings of Joseph Murphy. We've noticed that more than 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and giving the video a like. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. The Law of Reflection, the unshakable foundation of reality. The good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth what is good, and the evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth what is evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Gospel of Luke. If you have come this far, it is because on some level of your being you recognize that what you call reality is nothing more than an interpretive phenomenon, a conditioned echo of your own inner configuration. The law of reflection is the central axis of all transformation. To understand this law, it is necessary to abandon completely the illusion that what you live comes from the outside toward you. Your entire emotional education has been built on the deception that you are reacting to the world. In truth, it is the world that is reacting to you, your inner vibrations, your unexamined beliefs, your repressed emotions, your dominant images, your invisible contracts. This principle can at first seem violent to the ego because it displaces all sources of control from the outside to the inside, because it demands a radical honesty that few are willing to sustain, because it shows you, without metaphors or softeners, that you are the origin of everything that happens to you, not as punishment, but as reflection. We call the law of reflection the operative principle that establishes that every situation you experience is a symbolic copy of an inner content. It does not matter whether that content is conscious or not. In fact, most of it is not. You may declare with your conscious mind that you want to prosper, to be loved, to live in peace. But if your subconscious holds images of lack, mandates of sacrifice, ancestral guilt, or fixed ideas of insufficiency, then that is what you will see reflected. Not what you declare, but what you carry. Not what you wish, but what you already believe as true in the invisible levels of your psyche. Here it is necessary to dismantle precisely the concept of destiny, because this word has been used for centuries to justify the inexplicable and to console the unacceptable. People say, "It was his destiny," as if closing a case without understanding it. But if we admit the law of reflection, destiny disappears as a closed category. There is no external plan designed for you. What you call destiny is simply the most repeated vibrational pattern. It is the path of least resistance within your subconscious field. If you do not change it, it will repeat, not because it is written, but because it is coded, and what is coded can be decoded. Now then, why has something so crucial been omitted from general teaching? Because culture has trained you to look outward, to search for external causes for every result. For if you understood that you are the active cause, you could no longer blame the government, the weather, your parents, your ex-partner, or your genes. And this implies a radical freedom that may feel unbearable if you are not willing to assume it. Freedom is not easy. Freedom implies absolute responsibility for what you live, and this responsibility is the entrance to real transformation. To accept that everything happening in your external world is an exact reproduction of your inner world. This is the first act of spiritual maturity, not to blame you, but to empower you. The subconscious in its functioning is a replicator of states. It does not interpret intentions, but states. This means that if you find yourself in an inner state of abandonment, even if you say you want companionship, you will attract experiences of abandonment. For what the subconscious detects and executes is not the explicit desire, but the predominant vibration. This point is crucial. The subconscious mind does not respond to what you say you want, but to what you feel as true. If you feel unworthy, even while affirming the opposite, the reflection will align with unworthiness. That is why it is not enough to repeat empty affirmations. Language without vibration is harmless to the subconscious. Only sustained emotion has the power to imprint. In this context, it must be stated clearly. There is no accident, no chance, no essential injustice, only reflections. Every day, without exception, you are seeing what you believe. You are touching with your hands what your inner vibration is shaping. And if you wish to change what you see, you must not try to break the mirror, but purify the original image. This is the proposal of the law of reflection, to undo the illusion that you are a victim of circumstances, and to remind you that you are their author, their emitter, their vibrational transmitter. In this first chapter, we have opened a door of no return. What follows is neither easy, nor comfortable, nor soothing to those seeking consolation. But it is the path back to the center of power that has always been operating within you. From this point onward, every event in your life will cease to be a mystery and will become a message. Every obstacle will be a sign. Every person who appears will have a role in your inner play. The universe will then cease to be a random theater and will become a screen perfectly synchronized with your psychic frequency. This is not about believing. It is about seeing, registering, verifying. And if you do this, if you assume that the law of reflection is exact, then the rest of this book will serve as a surgical tool to dismantle what you project and to rewrite what you wish to experience. This is the starting point. Your reflection never lies, and now you know it. Chapter 2. The Subconscious Mind, Garden, Engine, and Silent Dictator. Whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. Galatians. To understand the root of what you experience every day, it is not enough to examine your conscious decisions, your declared intentions, or your rational plans. You must go much deeper. Your daily reality is not being shaped by what you say out loud, but by what you have silently accepted for years. This acceptance occurs on a deeper hidden plane that operates without interruption, 24 hours a day, without asking for your permission or informing you of its movements. This plane is called the subconscious, and if you do not understand its functional essence, you will continue throwing seeds without knowing what kind of garden you are cultivating. To begin, we must establish a clear and non-negotiable difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the one that evaluates, decides, chooses, argues, analyzes, discriminates, reasons. It is the mind you use to read this text, to talk with other people, to calculate a sum, to outline a plan. It is voluntary, critical, temporary, with limited capacity. It operates one idea at a time, cannot sustain multiple impulses without losing focus, and, most importantly, it records nothing automatically. It requires repetition, directed attention, explicit intention. It does not retain what it is not interested in, and it is not moved unless there is active emotion. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, does not analyze, does not question, does not reject, does not distinguish between true and false. It does not know whether something benefits you or destroys you. It accepts everything with absolute credulity. It is like fertile soil. It receives the seed that is thrown into it and turns it into a harvest. It does not ask whether the seed is of flowers or thorns. It simply produces. And the most alarming part for those who have never considered it is this: it is constantly absorbing, even when you are not aware of it. During childhood, during sleep, during emotional repetitions, during moments of crisis, the subconscious is in maximum openness. And what enters in those moments is installed as an operating command. To illustrate this, let us consider the model of the garden. Imagine your subconscious mind as a fertile field and you as the sower. Every word you speak with emotion, every image you repeat in your mind, every automatic reaction you sustain, every emotion you repress or amplify is a seed. Some seeds germinate quickly, others take months or years, but all germinate if the soil is active. If you constantly tell yourself that the world is hostile, you are sowing distrust. If you repeat that you are not enough, you are sowing self-sabotage. If you visualize failure, you are planting its root. And most importantly, you cannot avoid harvesting what you have sown. The subconscious does not forget what has been planted, even if you do. The conscious mind can make lists, organize schedules, declare goals, but if those goals contradict what the subconscious has already accepted as true, they will not materialize. The subconscious always wins. It is more powerful because it is deeper, older, more persistent. The conscious mind is like the tip of an iceberg. The subconscious is the hidden mass that holds the entire structure. If the tip wants to go north, but the base is anchored to the south, the whole block will move south. This is why so many people fail despite good intentions, because inner direction is stronger than superficial will. But how was your subconscious programming formed without your awareness? The answer is simple: by repetition, by emotional impact, by perceived authority, and by omission. During childhood, you absorbed words, emotions, commands, fears, expectations, and judgments from your parents, teachers, authority figures, and close environment. You did not analyze them because your critical mind was not yet developed. If your mother told you that money is scarce, that phrase was recorded. If your father said that men do not cry, that idea was inscribed. If your teachers reinforced that mistakes deserve punishment, you recorded an association between error and suffering. All these recordings now act like invisible software that determines your choices, your reactions, your limits, and your possibilities. Moreover, anything recorded under intense emotion has priority. The subconscious is especially receptive when emotion is high. Fear, pain, euphoria, loss, intense joy, these are open doors. If during a traumatic event the idea you cannot trust was installed, that idea will remain active, even if you deny it rationally. If in a past relationship the idea, love hurts, was recorded, that seed will keep germinating even if you consciously deny it. Because the subconscious does not listen to your arguments. It only reproduces what it recorded as true. At this point, the essential question is, how can you identify which subconscious recordings are active? There are several methods, but they all begin from the same premise. What you see outside reflects what is active inside. Thus, the first method is the projective analysis of your reality. Look at your finances, your relationships, your health, your successes, and your failures. Each of these aspects is a mirror reflecting an inner recording. If you experience persistent scarcity, there is an active recording of lack. If you suffer repeated emotional rejection, there is an active recording of devaluation. You do not need to guess which recording is active. You only need to observe what harvests you are reaping. The second method is the analysis of automatic speech. Listen to what you say when you are not thinking, the phrases that slip out unfiltered, the comments you make in casual conversations, the complaints you repeat, the judgments you cast on yourself or others. All this does not come from your rational mind, but from the subconscious archive. If you often say, "It's difficult," "With my luck it won't happen," "I'm too old for that," "That's just life," you are revealing your recordings. You do not need to force them. Just observe yourself for a day and write down your recurring phrases. There you will see the script your subconscious is running. The third method is the tracking of repeated emotional patterns. Emotions are not random. If every time someone contradicts you, you feel anger, there is a recording of threat. If every time an opportunity arises you feel fear, there is a recording of failure or unworthiness. Emotions are clues, pathways toward the subconscious core. There is no emotion without cause, and every cause that repeats is a recording in action. In summary, the subconscious is not your enemy, but it can become your dictator if you do not know how it operates. It is your silent ally when you program it with awareness. It is your subtle executioner when you let others program it for you. It does not distinguish between truth and falsehood. It only executes. That is why it is engine, why it is garden, why it is dictator. And if you want to change your life, it is not enough to think differently. You must reprogram from the root. In the following chapters, you will learn how to do this. But first, you must accept this principle without conditions. Every real change begins when you stop negotiating with your conscious mind and begin dialoguing with the true center of command, your subconscious. Chapter 3. Don't believe what you say, believe what you feel. Inner vibration as the supreme command. The mind precedes all things, the mind dominates them. All is made by the mind. If a person speaks or acts with an impure thought, suffering follows, as the wheel follows the ox that pulls the cart. Dhammapada. One of the greatest errors in the popular understanding of how the mind works is to suppose that words have power by themselves, that saying, "I am prosperous," "I am healthy," "I am loved," is enough to alter the vibrational structure of human experience. This illusion has led millions to repeat phrases as if they were spells, expecting magical results that never come. And when they do not come, instead of questioning the logic of the process, the individual concludes that they lack faith, or that these methods simply do not work for them. The truth is much more precise, though far less popular. The subconscious does not respond to what you say, it responds to what you feel as true. This statement, seemingly simple, dismantles centuries of verbal practices without emotional root. Because words without vibration do not impress, they are surfaces without depth, and the subconscious does not obey surfaces, only cause. To grasp this, we must start from a principle that contradicts the linguistic education we have all received. Words lie, but vibration does not. You may affirm, "I am enough," while inside you feel inadequate. You may repeat, "Everything is fine," while your body vibrates with anxiety. You may declare, "I have abundance," while your chest contracts with fear as you look at your bank account. In each case, the subconscious does not record what you spoke, but what you vibrated, because it has no ear for phrases, only sensitivity to emotional frequency. Therefore, if what you feel and what you say are in conflict, what will be imprinted is always what you feel. The internal dissonance between word and emotion not only cancels the power of affirmation, but reinforces the very pattern you wish to correct. The subconscious, perceiving this contradiction, assumes that what you feel is true and that what you say is only a superficial denial of that truth. Consequently, it executes more of what you feel and less of what you declare. This explains why many affirmations not only fail, but deepen the problem. For repetition without conviction reinforces the sensation of lack. The vibration accompanying the phrase is one of need, not fulfillment. And the subconscious replicates need. In technical terms, emotional vibration is a command. It is not a decorative state, but an internal directive that acts like an electromagnetic signal. When an emotion is sustained for more than a few seconds with directed concentration, it activates biochemical, neurological, and above all, psychic processes that reorganize the subconscious field. This means that the real work is not in saying the right thing, but in feeling what is true. And in this context, true does not mean objective truth, but what is subjectively believed. The subconscious does not know objective truth. It only knows what you feel as real. This premise has been summed up with total accuracy in one of the most powerful formulations ever uttered. The subconscious accepts what you feel as real. This is not a phrase of motivation. It is an exact description of how the core of your psyche operates. To feel is to imprint. To feel is to sow. To feel is to program. Everything you have lived as a recurring experience was first felt as true on some inner plane, even if you do not remember it, even if you do not understand it. Subconscious recordings do not require your explicit consent, only your repeated vibration. To illustrate this principle, let us consider the parable of the lying actor and the faithful mirror. There was a stage actor who every night played to perfection the role of a wealthy, confident man. His voice was firm, his stride decisive, his gestures impeccable. The audience applauded his performance with enthusiasm. Yet upon returning to his dressing room before the mirror, his face collapsed. He told himself, "This is not real. I am an imposter. I have no money. I am in debt. No one values me outside the stage." And the mirror, without judging, without opining, returned to him faithfully the image of the man who felt poor, insufficient, and hidden behind a mask. The subconscious is that mirror. It is not interested in your performance, however convincing it may be. It does not care how eloquent you are with your phrases. It only reflects what you feel when no one applauds. It only reproduces what you vibrate when the lights are off. If you want to detect these dissonances, there are exercises that allow you to do so with precision. The first exercise is to observe your immediate physiological reaction to an affirmation. If you say, "I love myself completely," and feel a knot in your stomach, a contraction in your chest, or a nervous laugh, that is your subconscious reacting with denial. The body reacts before the mind. What your body feels upon hearing your words is the true signal. If there is discomfort, doubt, or rejection, you are saying one thing and feeling another. The second exercise is the test of emotional permanence. Say a positive affirmation and try to sustain the coherent emotion for 60 seconds. If you cannot maintain that vibration without contrary thoughts arising, you have detected an internal contradiction. For example, say, "I succeed in everything I undertake." Try to hold the feeling of absolute certainty for 1 minute. If thoughts like, "That's not true," "I fail sometimes," "This is a lie," arise, then you know an opposing subconscious program is active. The third exercise is projected inner dialogue. Write 2 columns on a page. In the first, place the affirmations you would like to be true. In the second, answer from your uncensored emotion. For example, column A, "I'm completely at peace with my past." Column B, "I can't forgive myself for what I did. I'm still carrying it." This direct contrast between what is declared and what is felt will give you the exact map of your current vibration. And that vibration is what is operating as command to the subconscious. At this point, you can no longer sustain the illusion that words are enough. What you need is to align your vibration with your declarations, not to change the words, but to modify the emotion that sustains them. And that is not achieved through empty repetition, but through emotional immersion. You need to feel it new as true. And to achieve this, you must train your nervous system, your imagination, your body, your breath, your memory, and your attention. In later chapters, you will learn how to do this step by step. But for now, it is enough that you recognize this unquestionable truth. Your reality does not respond to what you say. It responds to what you emotionally believe as true. The subconscious does not hear your voice. It hears your vibration, and that vibration, like an encrypted code, is the supreme command that determines what harvest you will reap in the field of your life. Chapter 4. Reality as a neutral mirror. It does not punish, it does not reward, it only reflects. The universe is mental, the Kybalion. What enters the mouth does not defile a man, but what comes out of the mouth, this defiles the man. Gospel of Matthew. The fundamental error of ordinary thinking is to attribute an intention to reality that it does not possess. This attribution comes from an inherited moral system in which good events are assumed to be rewards and bad events are assumed to be punishments. This deeply childish view reduces the vastness of the universe to a system of rewards and penalties, as if life were a court judging actions and issuing sentences. But operational truth is more precise and less sentimental. Reality does not judge, it does not evaluate, it does not grade, it only reflects. This reflection is not symbolic or philosophical, it is a vibratory mechanism of psychic causality. Everything that occurs in your environment is not an emotional response of the universe toward you, it is an exact reproduction of the vibration you have emitted, sustained and reinforced. The law that governs this is not moral. Functionally, it is electromagnetic. It is a law of vibrational correspondence. What you are, in essence, not what you appear to be, nor what you desire, translates into events and circumstances. Thus, scarcity is not punishment. It is a reflection of an active vibration of lack. Abandonment is not a lesson. It is the echo of a belief of unworthiness. Rejection is not a signal that you are worthless. It is a replication of an internal identity that has already conceived itself as rejected. Take the example of scarcity. If a person repeatedly experiences situations where money is scarce, debts increase, or opportunities dissolve, linear thinking concludes, I am paying for something. It is karma. Life is unfair. But if we apply the principle of the neutral mirror, we must seek not a moral explanation, but a vibrational emission. What internal image does this person hold about money? What did they feel in childhood whenever wealth was discussed? What emotions arise when thinking of prosperity? What automatic phrases do they utter about money? If there is tension, guilt, fear, or contradiction in these responses, scarcity is not a punishment, but a reflection. There is no external judge evaluating merits. There is only a law reproducing what is vibrated. If the vibration is of lack, reality can only reflect lack. The same applies to abandonment. Those who repeatedly experience relationships ending abruptly, people disappearing, or connections that fail to consolidate, often ask, why does this always happen to me? The answer lies within, not outside. That person likely holds, unknowingly, an internal image of being undeserving of being supported, of being too much or not enough. That image emits a vibration of relational instability. The subconscious, sensing that love is insecure or fleeting, manifests it in external experience, not because it wishes it, but because it considers it true. And in the language of vibration, truth equals command. This principle leads us to understand that identifying the reflection is not enough. We must comprehend the complete circuit through which a vibration transforms into reality. This circuit has 4 phases, and understanding it is fundamental for deprogramming and reprogramming the reflection. Vibration. Everything begins with an internal state, a sustained emotion, a deeply rooted belief, a recurring mental image. This state generates an energetic frequency that is emitted constantly as a signal. Reflection. The vibratory signal impacts the external field, which responds by generating experiences coherent with that signal, not by judgment, but by vibrational affinity. What occurs does not contradict what you feel, it confirms it. Reinforcement. By experiencing the reflection, you interpret it as evidence that your belief is correct. If you experience scarcity, you confirm that money is difficult. If you are abandoned, you confirm that you are not enough. Thus, the external reinforces the internal vibration. Identity. Finally, the repeated vibration and its corresponding reflection consolidate as an identity. I am poor, I am not enough, no one chooses me. This identity becomes a permanent vibrational emission center, closing the cycle. This circuit creates what this book calls the cycle of reflection. It is a precise diagnostic tool. Whenever you wish to understand why something repeats in your life, you must trace this cycle. Identify your initial vibration, sometimes learned, sometimes inherited. Observe which event appeared as reflection, record how you interpreted it, and note in which identity it consolidated. This cycle cannot be broken from the outside. You cannot avoid abandonment by changing partners. You cannot avoid scarcity by changing jobs. You cannot avoid rejection by moving cities. As long as the vibration does not change, the reflection will repeat, even if the circumstances change. The cycle of reflection is broken at phase 1 by modifying the base vibration. This is neither immediate nor superficial. It cannot be achieved with empty affirmations or isolated actions. It requires systematic work of emotional review, conscious deprogramming, and the creation of sustained new internal states. In later chapters, I will show you how to do this. But first, you must accept with full seriousness what this law implies. You are not a victim of any circumstance. You are its emitter, not as punishment, but as the unconscious generator of your reality. Life is not speaking to you, it is copying you. Life is not punishing you, it is reflecting you. Life is not educating you, it is showing you what you have already accepted as internal truth. And if this truth no longer serves you, it is time to deactivate it. But to do this, you must stop seeking moral explanations and start seeking vibrational causes. Only then will you begin to understand that the world is neither your enemy nor your savior. It is your mirror. And that mirror, without judgment or emotion, returns every day the exact image of what you believe yourself to be. Chapter 5. The wound that thinks how your traumas shape your reflection. What we are today rests upon what we thought yesterday, and our current thoughts forge our future life. Life is the creation of the mind. Buddha, Dhammapada. Every repetitive thought, every limiting belief, every emotional reaction that triggers without control is not a voluntary choice. It is the echo of a wound. The subconscious mind is not structured through objective data or philosophical reasoning. Its architecture is formed by emotional impacts, by intensely lived experiences, by messages absorbed without filter during the most vulnerable years of life. Childhood. It is not an exaggeration to say that everything you project today as reality has its seed in what you failed to process as a child. Your wound is the one thinking for you. Your wound is the one choosing your relationships, your opportunities, your limits, your losses. And most alarmingly, you continue calling all of this your life without noticing that it is not your life. It is your emotional reflection running on autopilot. During childhood, human beings lack cognitive filters. The critical mind is not yet developed. Children cannot analyze or evaluate what they are told. They cannot compare alternative realities. Therefore, everything they hear from authority figures, parents, teachers, nearby adults, is absorbed as absolute truth. And if what they hear is charged with emotion, fear, anger, abandonment, humiliation, betrayal, that truth becomes a permanent recording. It does not need to be an extreme trauma. It only needs to be intensely experienced. Sometimes it is not what happened, but how it was experienced. A phrase like, "Don't cry, you're embarrassing mom," repeated often can imprint an identity of self-erasure. A dismissed gesture, a criticized drawing, a constant emotional absence can seal beliefs such as "I am useless" or "love does not stay." These early recordings do not disappear with time. Time heals nothing. Time only hides. An unresolved wound becomes an active program that continues executing throughout life. If you were wounded by abandonment, you will attract situations of distancing. If you were wounded by humiliation, you will attract scenarios of contempt. If you were wounded by betrayal, you will distrust even those who love you sincerely, because your subconscious does not distinguish between yesterday and today. It only knows what it has recorded as true. If the wound was sealed with emotional intensity, it becomes the dominant vibration. This is why what you do not heal is projected, not poetically, but functionally. What you do not integrate as processed experience, you will see externally as a multiplied reflection. If you repress your sadness, you will attract sad people. If you hide your anger, you will provoke conflicts. If you deny your pain, you will see victims everywhere. Your wound needs to express itself, and if you do not do it consciously, it will do so through the mirror of your reality. This is how the subconscious speaks. not with words but with scenarios. To understand how these mechanisms operate, it is necessary to practice what we will call emotional autopsy. This process consists of rationally dissecting your automatic thoughts, your recurring phrases, your repeated emotions to uncover their origin. It is not about reliving the pain, but deactivating it from its logical root. Take a frequent limiting belief within yourself. For example, I am not enough. Ask yourself, when did I first feel this? Who told me, directly or indirectly? What event installed it as truth? What emotion was recorded there? What phrases accompanied it? This analysis does not seek culprits, it seeks causes, and what has a cause can be transformed. Another example, if your mental phrase is, I am never chosen, investigate when this idea first found evidence. Perhaps it was a teacher who favored others. Perhaps a parent who did not notice you. Perhaps a friend who betrayed you. The important thing is to understand that this phrase is not yours. It is a repetition of undigested pain, and as long as you do not recognize it as such, you will continue acting from there. Your vibration will be one of devaluation, your reflection of rejection, and your identity will consolidate as unchosen. Everything originates from the wound. To illustrate this principle with the precision the subconscious requires, consider the parable of the child who never asked permission to shine. Once upon a time, there was a child who, without knowing why, felt that his words made others uncomfortable. Every time he spoke with enthusiasm, his father asked for silence. Every time he showed an idea, his mother told him not to be so full of himself. When he wanted to dance in front of his uncles, they said he looked ridiculous. Gradually, the child associated his light with danger. He understood that shining was annoying, that expressing himself was risky. He did not reason it, he felt it, and as he grew, he chose jobs where he could hide, relationships where he was undervalued, environments where his voice was not heard. Every time he tried to show his talent, something stopped him. He did not know what it was, but he felt it as an invisible barrier. Until one day, before the mirror of his life, he understood that he was still acting from the recording of the child who never asked permission to shine, and he decided to erase it. Not with phrases, but with inverted emotion. He dared to feel safe shining, and his reality changed. This parable is not symbolic. It is a precise description of the mechanism by which an emotional wound becomes programming. Programming into vibration, vibration into reflection, reflection into identity. You may have forgotten your wound, but your life has not. Your subconscious continues showing it every day in every decision, every rejection, every block. And it does not do this to punish you. It does it because it does not know how to do otherwise. It was programmed this way. The solution is not to deny the wound or justify it. It is to deprogram it. And to do so first, you must recognize that what you think is not always rational. Often, it is the wound that thinks. And until you distinguish your true voice from the voice of trauma, you will not know who is in charge. This chapter does not ask you to feel. It asks you to see, to trace the roots, to observe the complete circuit. Because once you understand that what you live today is a reflection of what hurt yesterday, you can no longer call it destiny. You will call it programming. And what is programmed can be rewritten, but only if you decide. Chapter 6. The Law of the Inner Contract, what you signed without knowing. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Gospel of Matthew. Beyond the ideas you repeat, the thoughts you analyze, or the emotions you consciously recognize, there exists within you a deeper, silent, and decisive structure, the inner contracts. These are not legal agreements, religious vows, or commitments signed before a notary. They are agreements you yourself sealed with life in moments of intense emotional vulnerability, when your conscious mind had no tools to defend itself, and your subconscious absorbed everything as absolute truth. They are called contracts because they are not fleeting beliefs. They are codes signed with the emotional ink of impact. They are phrases that you not only heard, but accepted. Not only accepted, but internalized. And not only internalized, but turned into law. Every time in a moment of pain you uttered, even silently, phrases like, I will never give myself again. No one will ever hurt me again. Money only brings problems. I'm not cut out for this. You were signing a contract, and the subconscious, which does not distinguish irony or sarcasm, sealed that phrase as an operative order. From that moment on, every time an opportunity for love approached, your inner contract activated. I will never give myself again. Every time an idea of success appeared, your contract activated. I'm not cut out for this. And so, unknowingly, you became the faithful executor of pacts. You drafted in states of pain and defense. You do not remember them, but they remember you. The law of the inner contract states, you do not attract what you desire. You attract what you have signed as true. And that truth is not rational, it is emotional. You may spend years desiring a healthy relationship, but if you emotionally signed that love hurts, you will consistently attract scenarios that confirm that phrase. You may repeat abundance affirmations, but if you sealed, I have no luck, reality will not be shaped by your words but by your vibrational signature, because the subconscious does not execute intentions, it executes contracts. These unconscious phrases have their own logic. They function as defense systems. They are responses to situations of emotional threat. A child ridiculed for speaking in public may unknowingly sign the contract. Better I stay silent. A young woman abandoned when vulnerable may sign the contract. Showing myself is dangerous. An adult who loses money in a venture may seal the contract. It's better not to take risks. Although these phrases may seem like conscious decisions, they are actually automated emotional reactions that solidify as operative truths. The problem is not that these phrases were formed. The problem is that they remain active because once the subconscious records a contract, it protects it, executes it, replicates it, and reinforces it whenever reality confirms the programming. This is why people often feel something invisible is blocking their progress. It is not invisible. It is a contract signed with intense emotion. It is a phrase living within your system that takes priority over any subsequent intention. The solution is not to erase the past or deny what was felt. The solution is to revoke the contract, and this requires a rational, emotional, and vibrational process. Wishing for something else is not enough. You must undo what you signed. For this, I propose a three-step process that can be applied to any active contract. 1. Verbal identification of the contract. This step consists of recognizing the phrase that has operated silently. You can find it by paying attention to your automatic reactions, emotional repetitions, and recurring internal phrases. Common examples. If I show myself, I get hurt. Everything ends badly. I don't have what it takes. I am unseen. Write the exact phrase without embellishment as it appears in your mind. 2. Emotional tracing of the origin. Once the phrase is identified, ask yourself when you first felt it. You may not have thought it in words, but the emotion was clear. Perhaps it was a betrayal, humiliation, failure, or abandonment. Return to that moment with your mind, not to relive the pain, but to see where you sealed that agreement. You will notice that at that time you had no resources, which is why you signed that conclusion as a protective mechanism. Your wounded self wrote that clause, and now your adult self must revoke it. 3. Vibrational deprogramming and conscious recontracting. This step involves nullifying the old contract and replacing it with a new one encoded in an opposite emotional state. For example, if your contract was, I have no luck, the new contract could be, everything aligns in my favor, not as a decorative phrase but as an emotional certainty. To imprint it, you must repeat it during moments of subconscious openness, just before sleep, upon waking, during deep relaxation, or in the midst of an intense emotional visualization. Saying it is not enough, you must feel it. The new signature must carry greater intensity than the old one. Only then can it reprogram effectively. This process is not instant, but it is precise. It does not require external beliefs, intermediaries, or symbolic rituals. It requires internal honesty, vibrational discipline, and the willingness to revoke painful pacts that no longer serve you. Every time you hesitate before acting, every time you feel something invisible stopping your progress, every time you repeat a scene of self-sabotage, ask yourself, what contract did I sign for this to repeat? Because behind every persistent pattern there is a signed phrase. Behind every dysfunctional reflection there is a sealed order. Behind every frustrated desire there is a subconscious truth contradicting it. And that truth can change, but only if you recognize that you do not attract what you ask for. You attract what you signed as true, And if you were the signer, you can also be the one to nullify the contract. No external authorization is needed, only internal presence. Only internal presence. The law of the inner contract does not condemn you. It only reminds you of your power, because everything you signed, you did to protect yourself. And now, with greater awareness, you can choose to free yourself. When you do, when the internal phrase changes, the world will have no choice but to reflect that change, because the subconscious obeys the strongest vibrational order, and that order can now be yours. Chapter 7, Language as Code, Affirmations and the Science of Decreeing. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. Proverbs. A word, when properly understood, is not merely a form of communication, it is a vibrational mold. Internally, you are emitting specific signals that activate or inhibit subconscious recordings, and more importantly, you are defining the form your experience will take. This is not a poetic metaphor, it is a precise function of language as a transmitter of psychic orders. Every word sustained with emotion is a decree, and every decree is a seed planted in the subconscious mind. From this perspective, affirmations are not motivational phrases or slogans to be repeated absent-mindedly. They are molds. A mold determines the final shape of the content poured into it, just as an iron mold defines the form of molten metal. Your words define the structure your vibration will adopt. If the mold is one of scarcity, the emotional energy you emit will take that form. If the mold is one of abundance, the energy will take the form of plenty. Language does not merely express your internal state, it shapes it. Here, a key distinction arises. Not every word has power. Only words charged with emotional vibration have power. This leads us to differentiate between two types of affirmations: empty and charged. Empty affirmations are repeated without presence, conviction, or emotion. They are decorative phrases. They may sound nice, but they do not alter any internal structure. The subconscious ignores them because it does not register what does not vibrate. For example, saying, "I am abundant," while feeling fear or doubt is like shouting at a mirror, expecting your reflection to change. It will not, because the mirror responds to the image, not the sound. And the internal image you are projecting is one of lack, not abundance. Charged affirmations, in contrast, are spoken with coherent emotion. They are felt, not just thought. The tone of voice, breathing, posture, rhythm, and especially the associated mental image allow the affirmation to penetrate the subconscious field. At that moment, it ceases to be merely a phrase and becomes an order, because the subconscious obeys what is alive, not what is merely spoken, and what is alive is what vibrates. Here comes the logic of emotional repetition. It is not enough to repeat an affirmation many times. What matters is how it is repeated. An affirmation spoken 1,000 times without emotion has no effect. An affirmation spoken once but with total emotional certainty can reprogram an entire recording. However, most people cannot sustain absolute certainty from the start. The recommended practice is daily repetition during moments of subconscious openness. Just before sleep, immediately upon waking, during deep relaxation, or during active visualization. In these moments, the critical mind weakens and the subconscious is most receptive. This is where the affirmation can enter and be planted. To create effective affirmations, a structured method based on 3 principles is essential: clarity, emotional coherence, and multisensory integration. Step 1. Precise formulation. The affirmation should be in the present tense, affirmative, free of negations, and centered on identity, not merely desire. Instead of saying, "I want to have money," say, "I am a constant channel of prosperity." Instead of, "I don't want to suffer in love," say, "I am worthy of healthy relationships and I give and receive love." Step 2. Emotional activation. Close your eyes and repeat the affirmation slowly, breathing deeply. As you speak it, locate an emotion in your body that accompanies it. This can be gratitude, certainty, joy, or confidence. Do not force it. Find it. If you do not feel it yet, imagine how it would feel if it were true. This is enough to start opening the channel. Step 3. Sensory visualization. While holding the affirmation, visualize a concrete scene that represents this truth. If you say, "I am successful," imagine in detail a situation where you already are. What do you see, hear? How do you look? How do you walk? What do you feel? The more concrete the image, the more real it becomes for your subconscious. Remember, The subconscious does not distinguish between reality and vivid imagination. Step 4. Physical integration. Open your eyes, walk around the room, and repeat the affirmation in motion. Feel how your posture, voice, and energy change. The body amplifies language. When the body acts as if the affirmation is real, the subconscious takes it as evidence. Step 5. Systematic repetition. Practice this at least twice a day upon waking and before sleep. If you do it consistently for 21 days, you will begin to notice changes not only in perception but also in external reflections that respond to your new verbal vibration. Words are thus not just vehicles for thought. They are operational code, instruments of inner design, tools of reprogramming. When you understand this, you no longer speak merely to express opinion. You speak to create reality. Every phrase repeated without attention is a seed scattered at random. Every phrase chosen with intention is an order sent to the command center. Remember, the subconscious has no sense of humor. It does not distinguish whether you are joking or serious. It only hears vibration. It only executes what it perceives as true. Your task is to speak consciously, charge your words with emotion, and sustain repetition until what is spoken becomes identity. Because in the end, you are not what you think. You are what you decree with emotional certainty. And when that decree becomes the dominant vibration, it has no alternative. Reality must reflect it, not as magic, but as law. Chapter 8. Strategic visualization. Don't imagine, rehearse your future. The life of man is what his thoughts make of it. Marcus Aurelius. Faith is the certainty of what is hoped for, the conviction of what is not seen. Hebrews. Visualization is not imagining things in the air. It is not fantasizing about what you want while living the opposite. Visualization is not a passive act or an illusory comfort. Visualization is rehearsing the future with technical precision and vibrational coherence. Those who visualize functionally do not dream. They train. They do not wait. They encode. They do not escape. They program. This is the difference between scattered imagination and strategic visualization. One distracts you, the other builds you. The subconscious does not respond to vague dreams. It responds to clear, repeated signals felt as true. Effective visualization is a scientific method within the mental law. It is a structured process in which specific images are directed toward the subconscious as operative orders. It is not about seeing what you would like, but showing the subconscious what it must consider real. Because the subconscious does not create from words, it creates from internal sensory impressions. The more real a scene appears, the more likely it is to manifest externally. Therefore, visualization cannot be symbolic, generic, or superficial. It must be functional, directed, multisensory, and emotionally coherent. Most people fail at this process because they believe visualization is simply imagining a result. I see a check for $1 million. I imagine a new house. I visualize my ideal partner. But these images are often accompanied by emotions of lack, disbelief, or anxiety. Then, faithful to its logic, the subconscious does not imprint what is shown. It imprints what is felt. The image may be of abundance, but if the associated emotion is doubt, what is recorded is scarcity. Thus arises the paradox of visualization. Intensely desiring something without achieving it, not because the method fails, but because it was executed without vibrational precision. To understand the importance of correct mental design, consider the parable of the blind architect. A man wanted to build a cathedral. He hired the best team, bought the highest quality materials, and dedicated all his resources to the project. But there was a problem. The architect who designed the plans was blind. He had never seen a cathedral, did not understand proportions, and had no concept of the relationship between form and function. Yet he drew the plans from his confused imagination. When construction began, the workers noticed that the columns did not support, the doors did not close, the ceilings did not align, and even though the materials were excellent, the result was chaos. This is how the mind functions when visualizing without precise vision. It has intention, energy, and desire, but no functional direction. The result is manifested confusion. To avoid this, one must apply rational techniques of effective visualization. Visualization should not be a disordered emotional act, but a disciplined mental protocol. The essential elements of strategic visualization are 1. Structural clarity. The mental image must be specific, detailed, and linked to a concrete situation. Do not visualize abundance as an ethereal concept. Visualize a real day in your already abundant life. Where are you? What are you doing? What clothes are you wearing? What expressions do you use? What does your environment look like? 2. Multisensory engagement. Seeing the image is not enough. You must hear the sounds, feel the textures, perceive the smells, and experience the temperature. The more senses you activate in your mind, the more real the scene becomes to your subconscious. 3. Emotional involvement. The emotion must match the image. If you visualize success but feel anxiety, you cancel the order. You must generate the emotion corresponding to the desired outcome. Gratitude, certainty, joy, serenity. 4. Systematic repetition. A single visualization may have impact, but a scene visualized 100 times in receptive mental states becomes dominant programming. The subconscious is a terrain that requires constant watering. 5. Internal perspective. And do not see yourself as a spectator. Visualize through your own eyes. Not, I see myself speaking in public, but I am speaking in public. I feel the microphone in my hand. I hear the voices. I breathe as I speak. This distinction changes the neurological signal. When these principles are applied, the mind receives clear instructions, and the subconscious begins to accept the repeated image as its new reference for reality. From that point, everything in your environment tends to align with the internal image, not as a miracle, but as the inevitable result of a dominant signal. This is not theory. There are abundant cases confirming the impact of correct visualization and the consequences of distorted visualization. I have worked with people who visualized business success, but their mental image was vague. They saw themselves with money, but stressed. They visualized fame, but surrounded by opportunistic people. They imagined financial freedom, but with guilt. The result, they achieved some prosperity, but conflicts, sabotage, or losses immediately followed. Why? Because the subconscious executed exactly the scene recorded. Success with stress, fame with betrayal, money with punishment. In contrast, those who visualize with coherent structure achieve consistent manifestations. I recall a woman who, after months of repeating affirmations without results, changed her practice to visualize a specific daily scene. She saw herself entering her new office, greeting staff, receiving calls with aligned opportunities. She practiced nightly with conscious breathing and relaxed state. In less than 3 months, a real opportunity coincided with the mental image. Not coincidence, but consequence. Visualization is not optional, it is inevitable. Every human being visualizes constantly, whether they know it or not. The problem is that most do it uncontrolled, letting fear design the images, trauma choose the scenarios, and doubt project the future. Power does not lie in visualizing. It lies in directing what you visualize, because what your mind rehearses, your life executes. The subconscious is like a disciplined actor. It memorizes the scenes you repeat most and performs them on the stage of your experience. From now on, stop imagining nostalgically. Begin rehearsing with precision. Your mind is not a place to dream. It is a laboratory to encode reality. Every image you record with emotional structure, multisensory detail, and repetition becomes an order that reality cannot disobey, because felt images are stronger than logic, and a well-visualized future ceases to be a possibility and becomes an inevitable repetition. Chapter 9. Feeling is creating emotion as a materializing matrix. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will come to you. Gospel of Mark. The most common mistake among those who wish to transform their lives is believing that thinking positively is enough, that ideas alone generate results. But the mind does not operate like a file of phrases. The subconscious does not react to superficial thoughts. It reacts to what you feel deeply. The true creator of your reality is not your conscious thought, but the sustained emotion you emit persistently. And this is not a motivational opinion, it is a functional law. Feeling is the operational language of the subconscious. To understand this, it is necessary to abandon the idea that emotions are passive reactions to external events. On a higher mental plane, emotion is a vibratory order. Every time you sustain an emotion, whether gratitude, fear, fulfillment, or anxiety, you are sending a precise signal to the subconscious, and faithful to its logic, The subconscious responds not with judgment, but with reproduction. It does not reward you for feeling good, nor punish you for feeling bad. It simply replicates externally what you maintain as your internal atmosphere. Sustained emotion, in psychic terms, is the matrix that shapes form. This mechanism is not mystical, it is neurological. Emotions activate specific brain areas, modify internal chemistry, generate breathing and postural patterns, and above all, create a coherent signal that reaches the reticular system of the brain. This system filters the information you receive from your environment. If you sustain an emotion of threat, your reticular system will seek to confirm threats. If you sustain an emotion of joy, it will seek stimuli aligned with that vibration. This explains why two people can experience exactly the same external situation, but interpret and attract completely different consequences, not because of what happened, but because of how they felt. Here lies the fundamental line between imagining and embodying. Imagining is seeing a mental scene without feeling it in the body. Embodying is feeling that scene as if it is already happening. The error of many practitioners of visualization, affirmations, or creative intention is that they imagine without feeling. They see an image of prosperity, but cannot feel it as real. They think of love, but feel loneliness. They say, "I can," but emit fear. And the subconscious, indifferent to words and ideas, records exclusively what it feels as true. And what it feels as true is the dominant emotion. Therefore, any mental technique that ignores the emotional component is incomplete. It is not enough to see the desired future. You must feel it as an internal present. For this, specific exercises are necessary to activate functional emotions, not as reaction but as cause. Here is a series of sensory exercises for emotional anchoring, designed to install emotional states that send clear signals to the subconscious. Exercise 1, Coded Breathing. Choose a functional emotion you want to anchor: gratitude, certainty, serenity, power. Sit in silence and begin to breathe deeply through the nose. With each inhalation, mentally repeat the chosen word. With each exhalation, imagine the emotion expanding through your body. Do this for 5 minutes. The goal is not to think the emotion, but to feel it in the body. Breathing serves as the entry pathway. Exercise 2, Positive Sensory Memory. Close your eyes and recall an experience in which you clearly felt the emotion you want to install. Focus not on the story, but on the sensations, how you breathed, your posture, the surrounding images. Relive that state as if it were happening now. Once you feel it, link a word or gesture to that emotion: a finger, a keyword, a hand over your chest. This creates a neurological anchor. Exercise 3, Embodying the Future Scene. Visualize a concrete scene of your desired future, but instead of focusing on visual details, focus on the emotion it produces. How do you feel achieving it? How is your breathing in that state? What tension dissolves in your body? Repeat this visualization at least twice a day, sustaining the emotion as if it were already alive. Do not ask the image to cause the emotion. Use your emotion to feed the image. These exercises are not magical, they are functional circuits. What you repeat emotionally becomes a dominant vibration, and every dominant vibration, when perceived by the subconscious, becomes an external reflection. This explains why even when it seems you are acting correctly, reality may not change, because your emotion contradicts your action. You can say, "I trust myself," but if you feel fear, you are creating from fear. You can repeat, "I am prosperous," but if you feel anxiety, you are programming from scarcity. The subconscious does not obey your intention. It obeys your vibration. And vibration is not generated by conscious thought. It is generated by emotion. This is uncomfortable for those who want to change only through thought, but liberating for those who understand that true power lies in feeling. Because while ideas fluctuate, the body vibrates. And when that vibration becomes an emotional habit, it no longer needs willpower, it becomes identity. Thus, the task is not to change what you think, but to change what you feel as a base. Install a new dominant emotion, repeated, sustained, real. Not to impress anyone, not to trick the subconscious, but to live from a frequency that reflects what you have already embodied internally. Because in the end, you do not live what you desire, you live what you vibrate. And vibration is not chosen, it is trained. Emotion is the matrix, and if you learn to direct that matrix, form adjusts accordingly. The universe does not respond to your words, it responds to your state. And when your state is true, it requires no effort, it simply reflects. Chapter 10. Breaking the reflection, erasing recordings, not justifying them. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. Otherwise the skins break, the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into new wineskins, and both are preserved. Gospel of Matthew. Every real transformation begins with an act of internal honesty, and this act does not consist of seeking new answers, but in admitting that many of your current answers are contaminated by old recordings, encapsulated emotions, phrases absorbed in moments of vulnerability, decisions made under pain. The problem is not what you desire, but what still vibrates within you as a hidden order, because as long as a recording is active, reality has no choice. It will reflect that recording as if it were your will. No matter how much you reason it, no matter how much you justify it, the subconscious mind does not argue, it executes what is recorded. For this reason, to break the reflection, it is not enough to desire change, or even to understand the cause of the problem. You must go to the root of the recording that sustains it. This requires, first, diagnosing the active programming. And this diagnosis is not done from judgment, but from observation, not from theory, but from the mirror of your current life. The question is not, what do I want to change? The question is, which pattern repeats itself even though I think I've changed? Because that is where the recording lies. To identify it, carefully observe the loops. What situations recur again and again under different faces? What types of people do you repeatedly attract? What emotions are triggered in the same contexts? For example, if every new job ends in similar conflicts, you are not choosing poorly. You are reflecting a work-related recording. If every emotional relationship triggers the same abandonment, it is not the other person who creates it. It is your subconscious projecting it, not as punishment, but out of fidelity to the internal script. Here is where the need for subconscious rewriting comes into play. The mind cannot operate with emptiness. Simply eliminating the old recording is not enough. You must replace it with a new structure that carries equal or greater emotional intensity. Otherwise, the mind will revert to the previous pattern, not because it wants to suffer, but because the subconscious always seeks to execute the known. The rewriting process requires three fundamental elements. Verbal identification of the recording. Write a single clear sentence describing the pattern that repeats. For example, everyone leaves me when I need them most, or I work hard and never get results. This sentence is not a casual thought. It is an order that the subconscious continues to execute because it is emotionally recorded. Emotional release. Recall the first time you felt that sensation, not to relive the trauma, but to recognize the emotional age of the recording. Perhaps it was in childhood, perhaps a decade ago. Visualize that moment. Tell that version of yourself that you understand, that it made sense to sign that conclusion in that context. But now, from a higher level of awareness, you release the recording with gratitude. This is not about denying what happened. It is about nullifying its operational validity, vibrational installation. Define a new phrase that expresses the desired reality in emotional certainty. Do not say, I hope to be valued. Say, I am constant value and attract relationships that recognize it. Repeat this new phrase in receptive states, before sleeping, upon waking, during a silent walk. Associate it with a functional emotion and a multi-sensory image, repeating it until it stops feeling strange and begins to feel real. That is the sign it is being recorded. This process may seem slow, but it is precise. It is not a matter of time, but of emotional intensity and vibrational coherence. It is helpful to use daily tools to eliminate active recordings. These tools should not depend on mood. They must become firm mental rituals, non-negotiable. Pattern journal. Each day write a situation that triggered a repetitive emotion. Identify which part of you reacted and what internal phrase was activated. This trains observation without falling into the content of the recording. Inverted affirmations. Take your limiting phrase and formulate its opposite as a functional affirmation. Example, I am invisible becomes I am seen, heard, and respected. Repeat aloud during walks or showers, integrating it into your routine. Physical emotional anchor. Associate a functional emotion with a physical gesture. Clench your fist. Place your hand over your heart. Touch your fingers. Each time you activate the gesture, evoke the emotion, creating a bridge between body and subconscious. Nighttime rewriting. Visualization. Before sleeping, visualize a scene where the old pattern no longer exists. Imagine exactly what you would do, say, and feel in this new version. Don't seek perfection. Seek repetition and emotional presence. These tools work because the subconscious does not distinguish between reality and emotional repetition. If you persist consistently in a new internal image, that image becomes the dominant vibration, and the dominant vibration dictates the reflection. To illustrate this principle, consider the parable of the prisoner without chains. A man lived in a dark cell. For years he believed he was chained. He did not try to move, assuming it would be useless. One day, a visitor shone a flashlight on his ankles, and they both saw that there were no chains. Only marks on the skin, old traces, the memory of real pain, but the chains were gone. The prisoner stood up, walked, and understood that the only remaining wall was mental. This is how recordings operate. You do not need to break real chains. You only need to see that they are no longer there. Most of your current limitations do not come from facts. They come from recordings you keep justifying, repeating, and experiencing as real. Do not rationalize them. Erase them. Do not endlessly try to understand them. Rewrite them. The moment you decide that you no longer need to live from that script, the obedient subconscious will seek a new order. And you have the authority to give it because you are not your reflection. You are the author of what is reflected. You can start anew whenever you choose. Chapter 11, Scientific Gratitude, How to Become a Channel, Not a Receiver. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. First letter to the Thessalonians. Much has been said about gratitude. It has been exalted as a spiritual virtue, a noble human gesture, a moral duty. But these approaches, however well-intentioned, fail to grasp its true function in mental dynamics. Properly understood, gratitude is not a secondary emotion that arises when something good happens. It is not a reaction. It is a frequency of emission. And in the precise terms of mental law, it is a vibratory tuning that defines what you can receive. No one receives by merit, no one manifests by deserving. It manifests by resonance, and gratitude is the signal most coherent with the frequency of abundance. In this plane of consciousness, there are no rewards or punishments, only reflections. And reflections do not respond to your desires. They respond to your internal state. Thus, gratitude is not about what you have, but about how you vibrate regarding what already is. To give thanks is not to say thank you with your lips. It is to assume internally that it already exists, that you already are, that it has already occurred. When that gratitude is genuine, the subconscious interprets it as evidence because for it, what you feel as real is real. And then it begins to reorganize the conditions so that what you are grateful for becomes an external experience. Here emerges a key principle of mental science. Gratitude before receiving is not optimism. It is proof of internal trust. It is the signal of someone who already knows that their request has been processed. It is like placing an order in a restaurant and then sitting down to talk without checking every minute whether the order was accepted. The one who trusts gives thanks in advance. The one who doubts hesitates, and that doubt becomes the dominant vibration. That is why, even if you repeat affirmations, even if you visualize, even if you declare your intentions, the reflection you get is one of waiting, not of realization, because you did not tune into certainty. And without certainty, there is no reflection. When you give thanks before seeing, you are emitting the most powerful signal there is, the signal of confirmed reception. The subconscious interprets this emotion as a closed order, and since it has no capacity to morally evaluate your order, it simply executes it. It cannot do otherwise. This is how its structure operates. But there is more. Gratitude is not only a frequency that attracts, it is also a perceptual filter. It changes what you see, reorganizes your reading of reality, and in doing so, changes your reaction to events. What once seemed insufficient now seems functional. What once was frustration is now training. What once was lack is now preparation, because gratitude reorganizes interpretation. And as every interpretation becomes vibration, and every vibration generates reflection, gratitude modifies the entire circuit. There is no virtue in automatic gratitude, the gratitude that arises only when the outcome is favorable. That gratitude carries no creative charge, it is merely an emotional reaction. The gratitude that transforms is voluntary, strategic, rationally chosen. It is the gratitude you decide to emit when nothing seems to justify it, when reality has not yet changed, but you already vibrate as if it has changed. That is operative gratitude, and it reprograms the subconscious field with greater force than any affirmation. To train this frequency state, I propose a specific exercise, anticipatory programming with rational gratitude. This exercise does not depend on mood or circumstances. It is a precise mental practice that should be repeated daily until the emotion of certainty becomes a dominant habit. Exercise anticipatory programming with rational gratitude. Preparatory silence. Sit in a space without interruptions. Breathe deeply for 2 minutes with your eyes closed. Your mind should not be agitated. The subconscious needs an open channel, not a saturated one. Selection of the scenario. Choose a single goal to visualize. It could be a harmonious relationship, improved health, or a resolved work situation. Be specific. The subconscious records concrete images. Writing the anticipated gratitude. Write in present tense a statement of gratitude as if you are already living that scenario. Example: thank you because today money flows easily and I feel calm as I see my accounts. I am at peace, confident, and new opportunities arrive effortlessly. Write at least 5 phrases. Reading an embodiment. Read these phrases aloud slowly while visualizing the scene and feeling the corresponding emotions in your body. Do not act, embody it. Do not force emotion, evoke certainty. Ritual repetition. Practice this daily at the same time. Repetition creates subconscious imprint, and the emotional habit generates a dominant vibration. This exercise is not placebo. It is a mental technology based on how the subconscious registers emotional signals. If you train gratitude as a frequency, not a reaction, your internal field becomes a channel, and you will no longer need to attract what you desire. You will radiate a signal that aligns reality with your state. This is the difference between being a receiver and being a channel. The receiver waits for signals. The channel emits them. The receiver doubts, observes, asks. The channel vibrates, gives thanks, creates. The receiver depends, the channel transforms. You can stop waiting, stop demanding, and begin emitting a signal of certainty so clear that the universe has no choice but to reflect what you already give thanks for as accomplished. Ultimately, it is not about how much you have asked, it is about how much you have thanked in advance. Strategic, rational, anticipatory gratitude is the signature that closes the internal contract. And wherever there is an emotionally signed contract with gratitude, reality becomes witness and fulfills it without option. Chapter 12. Inspired action, when the body confirms what the soul already knows. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. James. Every mental creation to become tangible reality requires a final link, action. Not because action is more powerful than the mind, that would invert the order, but because action is the final form that a complete vibration takes. It is the body executing what the soul has already confirmed as true. Without action, the vibratory circuit remains incomplete. It is like a seed that germinates underground but never breaks the surface. It awakens, it grows, but it is never visible. Therefore, the reflection cannot occur because mental law does not respond to static ideas. It responds to completed cycles. Acting does not mean doing something desperately. That is reactive movement, not inspired action. Acting is not filling your schedule with tasks or proving effort to anyone. Acting is the concrete physical gesture aligned with the frequency you have already emitted internally. It is the visible step of an invisible decision. It is the final proof that you no longer doubt because the body does not lie. It does what the dominant vibration commands. If the dominant emotion is fear, action will be evasive, tense, forced, or absent. If the dominant emotion is certainty, action will be direct, light, timely. Therefore, it is not about acting to see if it works. It is about acting because you already know it works. The key is understanding that without action, The reflection does not move. The universe does not respond to static intentions. It responds to flow, and flow requires physical expression. You can think about abundance, feel gratitude, visualize results, repeat affirmations, live in coherence, but if you do not do something new in the material plane, if you do not send that email, make that call, buy that domain, speak that truth, or make that decision, then your entire vibratory field remains suspended. The circuit does not close, and when it does not close, the subconscious cannot reflect it as external experience, not as punishment but by structure. Now, action is not always easy because many people move from urgency, not clarity, from lack, not abundance, from fear, not truth. Here a fundamental distinction must be made. Not all action is inspired. Many actions are compulsive, defensive, or justificatory. The ego acts to protect itself, to be accepted, to avoid exclusion. The soul, however, acts when the vibration is mature, not to avoid something, but to confirm an internal truth. This is the difference between reactive action and aligned action. How to know if an action is aligned? There are precise criteria. Energetic lightness. Aligned action does not carry unnecessary tension. It does not leave you exhausted. It may require physical effort, but it generates no internal resistance. There is flow, not friction. Emotional congruence. Your dominant emotion is in tune with the action. You do not act from obligation or doubt. You act from a sense of calm inevitability. Absence of external need. You do not seek approval, immediate results, or validation. You act because you have already decided internally who you are. The result is not proof. It is a reflection. Full presence. Without presence, you are not truly acting. You are not projecting scenarios in your mind. You are in the present, fully immersed in the gesture you perform. Silent expansion. After the action, you do not feel exhaustion or exaggerated euphoria. You feel expansion, as if something has clicked, as if the body knows that now everything can be reflected with more precision. These criteria are not mystical. They are neurological. The body responds with specific signals when an action is coherent with the dominant vibration. Learn to read them, because this silent language of the body is the most precise compass you have to navigate conscious manifestation. This process is not linear, it is cyclical. Every manifestation follows a complete circuit that must be repeated as many times as necessary until the external reflection matches the internal image. That circuit is thought, the seed idea. This is what I want to manifest. Emotion, the corresponding vibration, this is how it feels to live it. Word, the vibratory mold, this is how I declare it. Visualization, the multisensory image, this is how I rehearse it. Action, the physical gesture, this is how I confirm it. Reflection, the manifestation, this is how I see it. This cycle is not poetic, it is operative. It is a logical sequence of subconscious dynamics and must be repeated precisely without skipping any phase. If you think, feel, declare, and visualize but do not act, the reflection does not occur. If you act without thinking clearly, feeling coherently, declaring firmly, or visualizing with certainty, the action will be chaotic and the reflection confusing. But when the cycle is complete, when each link vibrates in harmony, manifestation is not a matter of luck. It is a matter of vibratory fidelity. Understand this. The universe does not respond to what you ask for. It responds to what you confirm with your body, because your body is the final frontier of the mind. When you act, you are saying, "This is already true for me," and the obedient subconscious executes that truth. Acting then is not effort. It is flowing with what you already know internally. It is letting the body be the instrument of a certainty that does not depend on logic or environment. It is the final seal of an invisible creation. It is the physical signature of an emotional contract. And that gesture, no matter how small, changes the entire structure of the reflection. Remember, you do not change your life with ideas. You change it with aligned gestures. You do not need grand movements. You need small actions from an exact vibration. Because when the soul already knows, the body confirms. And when the body confirms, the world reflects. So simple, so sacred, so scientific.